Hi guys, and thanks for watching. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alan Gardner and I've been a registered nurse in the UK since 2006 and an advanced clinical practitioner since 2014. I now work as a senior lecturer in advanced clinical practice at the University of Central Lancashire, and I'm recording this video primarily for my students there. However, I do wonder if this content might be beneficial to people in general at the moment. I'm going to be talking about mental resilience. And this is specifically in response to the global pandemic of COVID-19, and in particular the social distancing and social isolation measures that are being put in place to combat that. And I think that this is a time, probably more than ever in my lifetime, when people in general are going to be really tested with regard to their mental resilience. And so hopefully some of the content that I'm discussing here will be of real benefit to people. So by mental resilience, I mean that this is our ability to maintain our mental well-being and to tackle problems in the presence of sort of external stressors, in particular times of crisis. And I don't think that's over dramatic to describe this as a time of crisis. We're hearing reports of people experiencing all sorts of financial difficulties and even just worries specifically about the virus in itself, or their own health, or the health of the people that they care about. And I think even for me personally, a few days ago, I felt that as though this really had an impact on my own mental resilience. More anecdotally, I'm hearing a lot of people use the term look after yourself, either on social media or the people I'm speaking to over the phone or on video calls. And I just worry that for a lot of people, they're not really going to understand exactly what that means. I've been a registered nurse for quite a while now, but it's only really over the last couple of years I've started to understand mental health and how to maintain your own mental well-being during times of stress. So I really hope that this content is going to be useful for people. So really, it starts with looking after our physical health. For example, if you don't usually exercise, then there's never been a better time to start. That you can start doing some gentle exercise around the house or in the garden. There's some fantastic examples of people doing stuff all over social media. For example, Joe Wicks, the body coach, he's running PE classes for school children. So, I mean, this could be a really good opportunity to get up with your kids and get moving first thing in the morning. And hopefully that'll have a big benefit to your mental well-being, as we know that exercise can really help there. If you already exercise, then try and access some of the stuff online to start exercising differently around the house or in the garden. Because I think for a lot of people, for me included, I'm no longer able to access my usual method of exercising. So, for example, gyms are closing, and it's going to be difficult. We can't go to sporting clubs like football, for example. And again, there's some great exercise stuff online for you to access for that, and there's some links below that might help with that. There's also some links below to help maintain a healthy diet. That's going to be really useful here. I'm not going to talk too much about that because I'm not a dietitian, but there are some links to just help advise you to maintain a healthy diet throughout this. One thing that would be really helpful though is to just try and avoid either overindulging or using food to kind of cope with emotions. That we know that if you eat plenty of certain foods, that it can make you feel well, but there's only sort of short-term relief from that, and that can lead to problems down the line. Just as we need to avoid using alcohol to kind of self-medicate, that again that you might feel a lot more relaxed after one or two drinks, but what we tend to find is that then any sort of feelings of anxiety or depression or any other sort of negative traits of our mental well-being, that they can be magnified once the initial effects of alcohol wear off. But mainly I want to talk about things specific to our mental well-being, things that we can do to support that. So starting with mindfulness, that this is mindfulness is something that we can use in order to support our mental well-being. And there's a risk that people might think that that's more of a kind of a spiritual or religious thing, but actually there's a fantastic scientific evidence base to support mindfulness, that it's been demonstrated to have a really positive impact on creativity, on mental resilience, and on problem solving. And that's going to be really important at this time, because mental resilience is all about putting ourselves in the best possible place to be able to tackle problems head on. So all this stuff around mental resilience, it's not going to specifically target your problems or financial worries or anything else that's going on at the moment, but it's about making sure that we're in the best possible place that we can be in order to tackle these problems head on. So with mindfulness, with something as little as sort of 10 minutes a day set aside to have some quiet time, to meditate, or to practice mindfulness techniques, that they can have a huge impact on the way that we feel and the way that we relate to our thoughts. Mindfulness is all about redefining the relationship that we have with our negative thoughts or emotions or feelings. And instead of allowing them to push us around or to dominate our lives, that instead we just allow them to be, and just allow them to kind of just almost wash over us, or we observe them as they're going on, rather than being pushed around by them. There's this analogy that's commonly used in mindfulness, that if we sort of imagine our negative thoughts and feelings to be like a fast flowing river, whereas usually we jump into the current and be pushed along by it. Instead, with mindfulness, we stand on the bank and we observe it and just watch it flow past us. Mindfulness can also develop our sense of self-compassion, and I think that as a society where we're not fantastically compassionate toward ourselves, that if anything we tend to be quite self-critical of whatever we perceive our failings to be. And so mindfulness helps us to just redefine our ability to actually be kind to ourselves and just give ourselves a break, essentially. There's a really good adjunct to mindfulness, or a sort of a different therapy, and that's cognitive behavioural therapy, or CBT. And you might have heard of this as well. And these two go really well together, because whereas with mindfulness we can observe our negative thoughts or emotions, whereas with CBT we can actually learn to challenge them and to find ways of sort of saying, well, actually, whatever we're worried about, if we're potentially catastrophizing, that maybe I'm going to keep financial worries as the main example here, that maybe we're worried that we're going to have real financial difficulties and that we can't see a way out of this, that CBT helps us to actually challenge those thoughts and look at it in a more realistic way, and again helping us to find that inner strength that allows us to tackle these problems head on. And again, there's links to both mindfulness and CBT resources down below this video, so you can click on some of the apps available for mindfulness, or there's links to NHS websites around CBT and some NHS recommended apps to help develop CBT techniques that should hopefully be really useful if you feel that you need them. With regard to the red flags in mental health, then we need to be watching out for any changes in our thoughts or our feelings, both in ourselves and other people that we're in contact with as well. So just to talk about a few of those, this isn't an exhaustive list, and you can read this list below the video. But we need to be watching out for any thoughts of self-harm, or if we're acting on those thoughts and self-harming ourselves, and we really need to seek help through our GP for that. Just as if you start thinking or having thoughts of taking your own life, that really is something that we need to seek help for. If you're having feelings of worthlessness or helplessness, again, you need to seek help through your GP, or if it gets really bad, then potentially through A&E for that. We need to be watching out for any drastic changes in sleep pattern, or appetite. If our appetite really changes or our sleep pattern really changes, then that might be a sign that we need some additional support here. Just as any mood changes, so if we're feeling particularly down or depressive moods, then again we might need to seek some help for that. We need to be watching for any change in our thought patterns or the way that we function. So with regard to function, I mean that what we're usually able to do around the house or when we're at work, if we're finding it really difficult with that, then again that might be a sign that we need some additional support here. Just as if we find it difficult to concentrate, or we have any changes in our usual ability to remember tasks, like short-term memory loss, or if we're just not quite finding it that our thoughts are sort of in logical sequences, then again, these might be reasons for us to seek help through our GP. Now, social media is something to consider, because I think this is a bit of a double-edged sword. This can be a fantastic way to stay in touch with people, but now it's more important than ever that we're reaching out to those around us and setting up regular Skype calls or other sort of video calls with our friends and family, and staying in touch with people. And social media can support this. But as I say, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because it can also expose you to some negative information as well. There's a lot of negative reports of people not adhering to social distancing, or people changing their shopping habits, that we're seeing a lot of what's referred to as panic buying. And that can really sort of create quite a visceral negative reaction. So something as simple as just dedicating an hour a day to step aside from social media or have no devices available, just to give yourself a bit of headspace away from that sort of negativity. It's also important to recognise that people tend to project positivity on social media as well, but chances are behind this, or behind closed doors or beneath the surface, that most people are going to be having the same sort of worries and problems as anyone else at the moment, despite what you might see actually on their social media pages. So as well as this, it's a good time really to recognize that you don't have to watch the news. Don't feel pressured to stay up to date every single day, that you can get your information from other sources and not necessarily expose yourself to the very kind of negative, sensationalist tone that we're seeing in the mass media at the moment. That it is okay to just maybe have a day of disconnecting from this constant stream of information that we're getting through the news at the moment, because every time you turn the news on, it might seem as though there's constant updates of COVID-19 and what's going on at the moment. So now's a really good time to start making sure that we're reaching out to those around us, making sure that we're, as I said before, scheduling regular video calls with our friends and family. And you're probably already doing this, but the time to remember this is if you do start feeling that you're taking a hit on your mental resiliency, because that's when you're likely to become more withdrawn and less likely to actually reach out to those around you. Making sure that we're asking each other, like, how are you feeling? In particular, being specific, asking just a simple question like, how's your mental health? That can really give people an opportunity to actually discuss and open up to you. And that in itself can be quite cathartic. So that's about everything that I wanted to say in this video, and I really hope this information has been helpful. There's some links below for everything that I've talked about, in particular the mindfulness apps, the CBT links. There's some links to some charitable organisations that might be useful. So please just stay in touch. If you think that this has been useful, please leave a comment. If there's anything that you'd like me to explore in more detail, because I'm aware that I've just kind of given a very brief overview of each of this. So if there's more detail on anything that you'd like, I'd be more than happy to do another video about this. So please leave a comment, and just please look after yourselves, stay safe and stay in touch. All the best, and thank you for watching.